installments?
Nope.
Everything, you're good? Oh, we're supposed to do something with
If I
this?
can remember it.
There's just a little power button on the top, Lori. That green light will come on when it's ready. Yeah, just flip it anywhere. They're very sensitive, so it doesn't even have to be up high. Oh, it doesn't? No. Okay, that's good.
You ready, Gary?
I've been told by my wife to keep it way down here.
Your voice projects low.
Yeah.
So, but it will pick up. So, we're good? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Danielle.
Yeah. Watching? You
Yeah.
can do that, right? So you're gonna start us off at 6.
So Ben, I got some little candy things here if your throat gets dry and needs some lubrication.
No,
So
thank you.
we'll just pass it along.
Just give me the sign.
Yeah, very helpful.
Laura said she's afraid she might choke on one, which I hadn't thought of. I don't know.
Oh, I appreciate it. After 4 or 5 hours of meetings, my voice starts to get a little hoarse.
I think this is the quietest this chamber has ever been, and being occupied at the same time.
Last year, when I was up here, I think my wife was the only one in the audience.
Yeah, I was
this
gonna
time.
say, we've got 3, we're up.
I think let's see, no, COVID wasn't still going on in 23, 24, 25, 23, was it? No, COVID wasn't going on in 23, but
2022 kind
we didn't have anybody in the audience. I don't think we had anybody.
I remember it must have been the year of COVID, we did it at the rec center so that everybody could be spaced out. Like every candidate had their own table. It was like we occupied a massive amount of space at the rec center just to keep everybody.
echo in there too.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was strange. It was strange.
Good evening. My name is Eric Sanderson, the Caribou Economic and Community Development Specialist, and I want to welcome you to the 2025 Caribou City Council Candidate Forum. Our special guests tonight are the 3 candidates, Daniel Bagley, Lori Knight-Fair, and Benjamin Tucker. By charter, the Caribou City Council is elected by qualified voters of the City of Caribou at large for a term of 3 years each. Only qualified voters of the city shall be eligible to hold office of councilperson. The regular election of municipal officials is held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday of November in each year, and there are 2 city councilors to be elected in 2025. The terms of municipal officials shall begin the first Monday of January. All powers of the city are vested in the council, except as otherwise provided by law or the city's charter. Caribou is very fortunate that these 3 citizens have stepped up to seek this public office. We thank you for your willingness to step outside of your comfort zones, to put your names on the ballot to serve the citizens of Caribou. It's obvious you care deeply about your community's future, and tonight's event is moderated by Jason Parent. Mr. Parent is a Caribou resident, Aroostook County native, and Executive Director, CEO of ACAP, or Aroostook County Action Program. The program provides serious services and resources that help individuals and families achieve greater economic independence. Thank you, Mr. Parent, for moderating the Caribou City Council Candidate Forum. And with that, I will pass the forum over to you, Mr. Jason Parent.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Eric, and good evening, everyone. Good evening to those here in the audience, and good evening to folks watching at home this evening. Tonight, we hear from the 3 candidates running for the 2 seats on the November ballot for Caribou City Council: Dan Bagley, Lori Knight-Fair, and Benjamin Tucker. In just a moment, our 3 candidates will deliver their opening remarks, but first, just a little bit about this evening's forum. Following those opening statements, we will begin the question process, and we will proceed in alphabetical order. You are seated in alphabetical order, so we'll begin the opening statements with you, Dan Bagley, and then followed by Lori, and followed by Benjamin. And then for the first question, Lori, you will have first answer on that, followed by Ben and Dan. And then for closing statements, Ben, you will begin for closing statements, and we'll continue that rotation throughout the evening, so you each have the opportunity to answer a question first, second, and last as we continue to go through and proceed with the evening. Now, each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer that question. Time will begin after the question is read, and Eric, who just introduced me, will be providing our timing for this evening. Here's how it will work so the candidates and everyone at home and here in the audience is familiar. Once 30 seconds has expired, or when there is 60 seconds remaining in your answer, Eric will flash the green card indicating that there is 60 minutes remaining. Now, 30 seconds after that, when there are 30 seconds remaining in the 90 seconds that you have to answer the question, he will flash the gold card indicating 30 seconds remaining. And then when there is 15 seconds remaining in the 90 seconds, should you get to that point, you don't have to get to that point, but should you get to that point, Eric will raise the 15-second remaining red card, and we ask that you wrap up your comments at that point. I will let you, once time has expired, complete the sentence, and then ask you to move on. Now, in addition to that, at the end of each round of questions, I will provide you with the opportunity, if you all agree, to engage in rebuttal or to have another round of rebuttal, and we'll try to keep those to 90 seconds or under as well. So thank you so much again to our 3 candidates, and to you this evening, Eric, for being with us. All right, so as I indicated, we will now allow each of our candidates the opportunity to have 90-second opening statements. Again, I will first begin with you, Dan Bagley, so the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. I'd like to thank Penny and Danielle, and now Eric, who's standing in for organizing and hosting the event, and especially Jason. Thank you for coming to moderate again. It's always good to see you here at these events. Really happy to be here. I'm looking forward to discussions with my fellow candidates here. I'd like to start by saying Caribou is really on the move. That's my feeling anyway. I've been excited to be part of that transformation over the last 7 years with the planning board and now with the council. We have an outstanding city staff and department heads doing great things for the citizens of Caribou, and it's been a true pleasure working with all of them. We have a lot of exciting new initiatives on the horizon. The riverfront development planning is coming along very well. We're building momentum, and there's good community interest and participation. We're developing ideas for new airport projects and reuse of the trailer park area that's been cleaned up. And we partnered with Maine DOT to improve vehicle and pedestrian flow throughout the downtown areas. But we also have some ongoing challenges. We have increasing costs, placing a greater and greater burden on our taxpayers. We've seen an outmigration of businesses and residences, and we have a growing drug problem with limited resources to support enforcement and treatment. So I appreciate the trust that the voters have placed in me over the last 3 years, and I look forward to tackling these problems head on during my next 3 years on City Council.
Thank you very much, Dan. Lori, on to you for your opening remarks.
Good evening. My name is Lori Knight-Fair, and I'm proud to call Caribou my home. I was raised in Caribou and neighboring Woodland, and for the last 13 years, I've lived, worked, and served right here in our community. I've spent my career in education, first as a classroom teacher, then as a district administrator, and now as the principal at Connor Consolidated School. Through those roles, I've learned the importance of listening, building relationships, and working together to solve challenges. I'm running for City Council because I care deeply about Caribou's future. I want to continue the positive momentum we're seeing by supporting local businesses, strengthening community connections, and ensuring our city government is transparent, respectful, and responsive to all residents. I believe that every voice in our community matters, And together, we can continue to make Caribou a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Ben? Right on the top.
There it is. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, echo those sentiments for hosting us, having me back here today. I'm very happy to be back. It's nice to meet you, Lori and Dan. It's nice to see you. Nice to see everyone in the audience. My name is Benjamin Tucker. I was a candidate last year and I'm running again today because I feel that although we have a lot of very great people and a great community in the city, again, to echo Dan's sentiments, we are facing a lot of challenges. I'm concerned with the rising costs and the potential cyclical nature of people leaving, leading to additional rising costs to compensate for the tax base that evacuates and leaves the city. I am a telecommunications engineer. I've managed a lot of government-funded BEAD projects. I'm very familiar with these large-scale problems and finances, and I think that this experience sets me up well and will aid me greatly in my endeavors to take on these issues in Caribou. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Well, tonight we're going to dive into a number of the opportunities and challenges that you all have shared in your opening remarks, but we're first going to begin with learning a little bit more about you in terms of your leadership style, as well as what you hope to accomplish as a city council member if elected. So Lori, we're going to begin with you. Could you tell us about your leadership style and what you do hope to accomplish as a city councilor?
Sure, thank you. My leadership style is collaborative, transparent, and self-oriented, service-oriented. I believe in listening first, respecting all voices, and making decisions that reflect the needs and values of our entire community. I work hard to build relationships, foster open communication, and bring people together to solve problems. As a city council member, I hope to help guide Caribou through positive growth while preserving the sense of community that makes it so special. My goals include promoting transparency in decision-making, encouraging new business opportunities, and ensuring that every resident feels heard and valued. Ultimately, I want to help create a community where families, businesses, and individuals can thrive together. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Ben Tucker, your thoughts about leadership and what you hope to accomplish if elected.
As a person in general, I like to think that I'm a very pragmatic and principled individual, and I think that translates very well into my leadership style. As a team leader in the professional environment, I tend to be direct and solution-oriented and honest with clients, colleagues, subordinates, whomever. And I think that this has contributed a lot to my success personally. I think that it helps to know that when you're providing constructive criticism, it's coming from a place of truly wanting to do the right thing and make the right decisions. As a city council member, I'm hoping to work with my fellow councilors, the city staff to ideally, first and foremost, empower the private sector and existing business owners to expand our economic footprint, and in turn help break us out of the stagnant census that we've been in for over the past 5 years, to grow that tax base and help reduce that burden on the individual taxpayer.
Thank you, Ben. And you're the last one, Dan, on this question, talking about your leadership style and what you hope to accomplish.
Thank you. Well, I prefer to take a collaborative approach and try to build consensus among the members. It's not always easy. Sometimes it can be a challenging environment, different opinions and ideas on methods, so I always try to allow each person's voice to be heard, to pinpoint those key interests and motivations, and then work to find common ground that we can make a decision together on. Now, personally, I'd like to see the council become a more deliberative, problem-solving body, because I've noticed you rarely see a true discussion among the council members during these meetings. Typically, each council kind of takes a turn stating their position, maybe with some rationale, and then we take a vote. but you don't really see a real effort to consider other positions and to seek compromise. And that's what's missing. I think we could be a lot more effective if we worked harder on building a consensus within our body. So that's what I'd like to do.
Great, thank you so much. Our second question is first going to go to you, Ben Tucker, and it's about economic development, specifically what your definition of economic development is, and what policies can the Caribou City Council adopt to increase economic development efforts?
I think economic development is first and foremost driven by competition. And to me, what that looks like, just piggybacking off of the previous question about my leadership style, is that I think that competition looks like a growing, expanding population, growing workforces that enables new businesses to open up within the city, not just retail locations or food service, which are very important, but also more skilled work, trades, tech jobs, and so on. Something that enables people to have a little bit more money to spend to stimulate the small businesses that are around, and also to make it an appealing place to move to, where someone might accept a job that pays them well enough to move to Caribou and settle in our city. I think that to accomplish that, we should take a look at any existing ordinances that could be prohibitive and needlessly burdensome on new businesses opening up, and remove those, as well as offering tax incentives for them to open here and choose to come to us instead of one of our neighboring cities.
Thank you, Ben. Dan Bagley, your thoughts on economic development?
Well, I think we need to consider both economic development and community development hand in hand, because I see economic development of those policies, investments, activities that result in a direct, measurable revenue into the city. Examples of that are new businesses and houses going up, and we collect more property taxes. Community development are all those other things that create favorable conditions for economic growth that can impact revenue for the city. And those are things like infrastructure, amenities, and the services that people come to expect. We have a great economic development team here in the city, and a very talented group serving on the Caribou Development Committee that helps out in this area. They've been very effective in conducting outreach, coming up with ideas, exploring ideas, devising strategies, and tackling specific issues like housing and the lack of industrial and commercial space in the city. But the bottom line for me is the economic development is just the core of just about every other issue affecting Caribou, and it should be the highest priority of the City Council, which I think it is. It certainly is for me.
Great, thank you, Dan Bagley. Lori Knight Fair, you have the last turn at this question.
Great, thank you. Caribou has enormous potential. With thoughtful planning, collaboration, and a commitment to supporting both our people and our businesses, we can grow our economy while preserving the community values that make Caribou unique. My goal is to make decisions that move Caribou forward safely, sustainably, and strategically. Thank you.
Great, all right, I think we've covered that. Anybody else need any extra time on that question? All right, then we will move on to our next question, where we're going to begin with you, Dan Bagley, and it's, what are your thoughts on how to increase business retention and expansion in Caribou? So delving in a little bit further on economic development.
Yeah, so that's very closely linked to the previous question on community and economic development. It's about creating favorable conditions for businesses to choose Caribou to come and set up their business. So we need to do more community development efforts. We need to do better maintaining and updating our infrastructure, controlling the tax burden that businesses will need to carry when they get here, and by providing the services and amenities that families and businesses have come to expect. We can also explore additional incentives through targeted tax relief, perhaps, property transfers and favorable lease terms for those properties that the city owns. And we always should be looking for opportunities to create public-private partnerships. I think that's where the key is. And there's a lot of that going on to tackle the really tough problems. And there would be opportunity for generating additional revenue for the city as well in doing that. finally, we got to have the labor force to support the businesses, and that becomes a problem. And we have to have the resources and infrastructure to support that labor force. And this includes everything: housing, good schools, low taxes, great amenities, quality health care, and public safety. So I think if you do all of these things, I think we would be in a very good position to actually increase our business retention and expansion in Caribou.
Thank you, Dan Bagley. Lori, Night Fair, your thoughts on how to increase business retention and expansion in Caribou?
Okay, thank you. I agree with Dan. Business retention and expansion are key to a healthy local economy. The best way to strengthen Caribou's economy is by supporting the businesses that are already here, helping them succeed, grow, and continue to provide jobs for our residents. When local businesses feel supported, they stay and grow. By creating a strong partnership between the city, business owners, and the community, we can build a stable and thriving local economy that benefits everyone who calls Caribou home.
Great. Ben Tucker, your last word on this.
So I have something very similar to what Dan had said about looking at the city-owned properties and see what land can be parceled out and sold to prospective businesses with favorable terms to allow them to open up and incentivize them to operate within the city. And additionally, just as I had mentioned in the previous one, I think responsible deregulation can go a long way towards fostering those favorable environments for businesses to open up. Any additional prohibitive costs that a business owner looks at when they're considering where to open, such as any additional licensing fees, any work that needs to be done on the land that they're looking to open up to in order for them to be granted permission to open there. Those are all going to be things that they're considering and looking at when they're looking at where they want to plant their roots at. The more we have, the less likely we get that business. So I think really going through those with a fine-toothed comb, seeing what we can take out, consulting the planning board, and seeing what areas can be rezoned for businesses, I think would go a very, very long way towards fostering that kind of environment for businesses.
Thank you, Ben Tucker. Anybody else want to have any last word on this? Okay. We will move on to question number 4, which is on a topic that is on a lot of people's minds and has been for seemingly forever in Caribou, and that's the downtown area. Now, the city is currently working with the Maine Department of Transportation on various transportation initiatives. But this question asks specifically, what are your thoughts about how the downtown area can be revitalized and better connected to other areas of the community? And Lori Night Fair, you get this one first.
Thank you. I can actually remember when downtown was new, so and everybody was saying they wanted it back the old way. So we have an opportunity to work with DOT and local partners to reimagine Caribou's downtown in a way that encourages growth and improves quality of life. I support efforts to add green space, improve traffic flow, and enhance pedestrian accessibility. These improvements would make downtown more welcoming, safer, and better connected. With all that in mind, I have some other concerns. I have serious concerns about the current plan for the Aroostook River Bridge, which also includes DOT and another project. I believe the proposed approach is not the best plan for Caribou, and that we must look for alternatives that are both safe and sustainable for our community. The bridge is not only a transportation link, it's a vital connector for our residents, our businesses downtown, and for first responders. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Ben Tucker.
So I answered this question last year as well, and last year I was skeptical about what this looks like and what it will mean in terms of cost, and I have that same sentiment today. Where we're at currently, we have a population of around 7,400, and as I had mentioned, that census is staying effectively flat. So taking that into mind, I think that as it is right now, our downtown roads currently serve our needs, and I think that anything that would be a prohibitive cost that would then be passed on to the taxpayers that are already struggling should be something that we should be exceptionally cautious about. That being said, I do agree with Lori. I think that it would be nice to have some common green areas for people to spend time in down there. So if that's something that we can accomplish while remaining prudent with taxpayer funds and responsible with grants, I think that's something that could be great. But as it is right now, I would be very wary of any price tag associated with that level of a project.
Thank you, Ben Tucker. Dan Bagley, your thoughts on the downtown area and working on
You
transportation?
really want to know? Okay, here we go. Well, I feel the one-way loop around the city here is just absolutely killing any opportunity for us to transform and revitalize our downtown area. Now, I understand the original intent, and maybe it was a good idea in the situation that occurred back then, I think in the 70s, wasn't it? Yeah. But now it presents a significant obstacle for revitalization. We have no way of connecting High Street and Sweden Street, and right now we have very little options for building up a traditional, vibrant downtown area. That DOT Village Partnership effort may help. We may be able to identify some of the first steps in solving that problem. But I feel if grant money is available, or if we can put together some type of public-private partnership, I think it's possible. Maybe we can turn this into a reality to reconfigure that whole thing. I, for one, would love to see that because it would completely transform our downtown area, and it would open up endless possibilities for revitalization. And if that doesn't happen, you know, there are other things we can do. New lighting and landscaping, as was already mentioned, additional facade improvements. And I think we ought to do a better job specifically targeting the businesses that we want in the downtown area instead of office spaces and things like that. Really go after shops, and businesses, and restaurants and pubs and that kind of a thing. And to shape that downtown area the best we can to what we want to see.
Great, thank you, Dan Bagley. I'm assuming we're good on this topic. We're going to move from the downtown then to the riverfront. And the question first will go to Mr. Tucker. What priority do you place on or vision do you have for riverfront development for community gathering place and economic development?
I really love the idea of a revitalized riverfront. As the preface, that being said, one thing that I have a question for, similar to the previous question, is how much of the demand is there? That tends to be where my mind goes first when I think of projects like this. I'm not adverse to spending money to make improvements if we can realize some kind of monetary gain and some kind of benefit there. It does sound like currently there is some demand in the community for it, and I think that's great. As long as that stays there, I think that it's a great initiative. It's a great opportunity to offer partnerships with the private sector and to empower them with any property owners there that may want to open up businesses that could help contribute to our local economy and to make that a more fun community gathering place for people.
Great. Thank you, Ben Tucker. Dan Bagley, your thoughts on riverfront development?
So I've been involved in the initiative for over 5 years now, since the committee was first put together. The Caribou Riverfront Redevelopment Committee used to be the Renaissance Committee or something like that, but it's a redevelopment committee, so this is a very high priority for me. I see unlimited potential for economic growth and beautifying neglected areas of our city at the same time. We have an awesome group, very creative and dedicated and talented individuals serving on the CRRC, and we've made some great progress over the last couple of years. We've conducted community outreach and surveys. The planning board has laid out new zoning proposal for the area. We've purchased the train station and the starch plant. We've obtained grants for demolition and cleanup of the steam and diesel plants. We're working with DOT to get access to the rail path. And we just recently awarded a contract to develop a riverfront master plan. So this could be a huge tourist and recreational attraction, a mix of parks, commerce, recreation, and housing, and truly transformational for Caribou. I think it's one of the most important investments we can make for Caribou. And so stay tuned. I think a lot is going to be happening in the next couple of years on this.
Thank you, Dan Bagley. Lori, you get the last word on riverfront development.
Thank you. I can remember when the riverfront was completely industrial in my childhood, and untouchable. There wasn't any way to access it. I think that the riverfront development would be it should be one of our top priorities. The Aroostook River is one of the greatest one of our greatest assets in creating a community gathering space. That would attract visitors and support local businesses. We just need to balance growth with the preservation of the river's natural beauty. But I think that it's just a wonderful opportunity for our city to be able to invest in that and capitalize on it.
Excellent. Thank you all
Thank
for your
you.
thoughts on riverfront development. We're going to move on to question number 6, which we'll begin with Dan Bagley on. And it asks, in what ways can the city of Caribou boost new housing starts and encourage maintenance in our aging housing stocks in relation to general blighted conditions? Dan?
Well, I think we can and should explore additional options to incentivize landlords and builders to build. And I've mentioned before, like tax relief, property transfers, and low-cost leases for the property the city owns. In terms of blight, we can and should continue using our dangerous buildings and nuisance property laws, but to be honest, that has limited impact. There's little you can do to a property and somebody just totally refuses to fix it. I like the idea of setting up a municipal land bank, and I've been pushing this for the last couple of years now. This could help blight and housing stocks at the same time. There are over 200 programs nationwide, land bank programs. Sanford and Rumford both have land bank programs that they're operating fairly successfully, and Van Buren has just taken the first steps now in setting up a land bank. Now, this would require a shift in policy for the city of Caribou because we've been hesitant over the years to own and manage properties in this way. And it would also require additional staff or some kind of consultant support to administer it. But there seems to be good support on the council for doing that. And so we're going to take another look, dive into it further, and hopefully develop a plan in the next few months. Other ideas we could think about is to regulate abandoned and unoccupied properties. We can also regulate rental properties. And we can, again, develop public-private partnerships with the potential for revenue. Those are all three things that seem to be trends going on into other communities now, and we ought to do something like that in Caribou.
Thank you, Dan. Lori, your thoughts on housing and also blighted properties?
Yes, I agree with Dan. I think Caribou can help boost new housing by making it easier and more appealing to build here. Things like streamlining permits, offering small incentives, and investing in good infrastructure. For our older homes, we can encourage maintenance through grant programs, fair code enforcement, and community cleanup efforts. A mix of support and accountability can really help our neighborhoods look and feel their best.
Thank you. And Ben, your thoughts on housing and working on blighted properties in the city?
Well, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, it's my two favorite things again, tax breaks and deregulation. Housing is a need. It's always in demand. I think that offering tax incentives, removing obstacles to building is the key to that. When we have willing and able contractors and architects and developers that want to purchase any property from a derelict property owner, then I think that we should be doing everything in our power that we can to remove those barriers for them, to encourage them to purchase that property, build it, restore it, and similarly to the businesses, consult the planning board, see what we can do as far as zoning goes to rezone these areas to allow more housing to be built. I think a land bank is also a great idea. I think that as far as blighted properties go, if people are very, very resistant to restoring their blighted properties, possibly offering to purchase that property from them and seeing if we can sell that and lease that to other business owners or developers with favorable terms.
Great, thank you. And a couple of you came close on time. Do you want anything else to say on that?
This is not really a rebuttal, but I would like to build upon something that Ben said, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to do with subdivisions. putting together a subdivision for any contractor is a very onerous process, paperwork heavy, and there has to be ways to make that better. We're largely driven by state laws on how we do all of that, but that's worth looking into. But we've talked to a lot of builders on the development committee, and it's not a good situation. They're telling us that it is just too expensive. That investment up front and the time that you would have to wait to get your return on that investment is just prohibitive. That's why you don't see it. We have plenty of people around here with the means to build housing developments. Why isn't it happening? That's why. So we have to look at other ways.
Great. Lori and Ben, anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. We will move on to our next question and change topics, and it will go first to you, Lori, and it's about health and wellness. Specifically, how do you think health and wellness can be promoted in our city? And this person asking this question says, for example, better bike and pedestrian facilities and winter wellness opportunities.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to say we have a wonderful rec department with wonderful programming that offers all of these great excursions, even for adults. I believe that health and wellness should be at the center of how we plan for Caribou's future. Improving bike and pedestrian facilities is a great place to start, with safe sidewalks, trails, and bike lanes, encouraging people of all ages to get outside and be active. In addition, creating more winter wellness opportunities, such as promoting outdoor recreation, partnerships with local organizations, and indoor options for families, helps us embrace all 4 seasons while keeping our community healthy. By investing in infrastructure, programming, and partnerships that make active living easy and accessible, we can support the physical, mental, and social well-being of our residents year-round.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank
Ben,
you.
Tucker, your thoughts on health and wellness?
So I agree. I think the rec center is a wonderful option. Beyond that, though, at this point in time, I personally don't believe that it's the role of government to promote health and wellness. I think that role is much better fulfilled by volunteer organizations. There are many volunteer organizations that have done exactly that in hundreds of cities throughout the United States very successfully. I think by fostering relationships between those volunteer organizations and the community, the city can contribute in that regard. But similarly to some of my other concerns, where I would need to know where the money would come from to build any more. If we can't afford it, then it might be something that's best to shelf and hold off on until we're in a little bit of a better spot financially.
Great. Thank you, Ben Tucker. Dan Bagley, you get the last word on health and wellness.
Well, I as well have been very impressed with the quality and variety of all the different programs that our wellness center offers. As well, Carrie, other organizations and businesses around town, they do sponsor periodic events, and we could take a more active role in supporting those as a city. And there's always opportunity to build closer relationships and partnerships, and maybe develop a more coordinated strategy. We have a lot of players involved interested in health, including Carrie, RSU 39, the library, Public Works, Parks and Rec, regional service organizations like ACAP and Agency for Aging. They're all interested in wellness. But at the very least, we should upgrade our infrastructure, specifically our sidewalks and lighting, especially to accommodate strollers and wheelchairs and those, moving with walkers. I think the DOT Village Partnership Study will help in that area and identify areas we could improve. The Riverfront Development Initiative is a blank slate, and this would be a tremendous opportunity for a combination of multi-use walking, biking paths, and we could even put exercise stations along the way of the path and really build that up into a terrific facility. And finally, I think we ought to add wellness friendly to our marketing taglines. You hear about business friendly, family friendly, age friendly, kid friendly. We need to let people know that Caribou is the place to be for health and wellness. And so that can maybe be added to our marketing pitch.
Thank you so much. Thank you all three on this topic. We're going to talk next about something that more than one of you mentioned in your opening statements, and that is the challenges with the ongoing drug problem. And the question specifically asked, there has been an ongoing discussion about the drug problem in Caribou and its impact on area youth. What ideas do you have about how to combat the abuse of illegal substances in our community? And it first goes to you, Ben Tucker.
So I think that creating new laws or imposing additional penalties with stricter enforcement on drug use statistically has been shown to be relatively ineffective in actually reducing drug use. I think that if that's the route the city would go, I think we're more just treating a symptom rather than what the actual disease is. I think that it's important for us to look at the societal factors that might lead to this. Dan said in his opening statement that the majority of the problems that we're facing as a city revolve around economics, and I don't think that this is any different. People turn to drugs when they have a problem to solve, and that problem is often mental health issues or a lack of opportunity. I think providing that opportunity will treat one facet of that problem. I think that the other one, the city being more involved in coordinating a relationship between treatment centers, deregulating them, allowing them to operate more easily within the city so that they're able to offer more effective treatment, would be the key to beginning to combat that problem.
Great, thank you, Ben Tucker. Dan Bagley, your thoughts about the drug scourge in the community?
It is a tough problem, and we already heard there are many causes and factors that go into it. Easy access to drugs, limitations on how we're allowed to enforce and prosecute violations. Economic hardship and lack of good paying jobs is often a factor. The lack of housing and homelessness often plays into it, and almost always there's an underlying mental health issues involved. And so it is a national trend. It reflects a shift in our societal attitudes and priorities, and I think the city's somewhat limited in what they can do at our level with our limited resources. Yet here we are, municipalities end up having to try to figure out how to deal with the impacts. I do think there is a role for the city in coordinating local outreach and intervention. As was mentioned, assistance for treatment, counseling, and support. We could also partner with other businesses to build and operate more short-term and long-term treatment centers. I think we have one, maybe two in Caribou now. And again, back to the housing shortage and blight, we have to combat that. Let's face it, rundown buildings is a magnet for illicit drug use, and we have to clean that up. They contribute significantly to the problem. So it's a multi-dimensional problem. It requires a multi-pronged, coordinated solution. We, as a city, should do our part to support that.
Great, thank you, Dan Bagley. Lori Knight Fair, your thoughts on the drug challenges in the community?
My comment isn't unlike yours, either one of yours. The drug problem is a serious issue, especially for our youth. Caribou is fortunate to have a strong recreation program that gives kids safe, positive ways to spend their time. We need to keep supporting and expanding those kinds of opportunities along with prevention and education efforts in our schools. Working together with law enforcement, families, and local organizations to focus on treatment and recovery rather than just punishment will also make a real difference.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Ben, and thank you, Dan, for all of your thoughts on that. We're going to now move on to the issue that, if not number one, is certainly in the top three in the dialogue in the community, and that's related to taxes. Caribou residents are concerned about the increasing tax burden and have asked when they can expect a decrease in the mill rate. How would you address the need to provide the services that citizens want and need, state-mandated spending, and the desire to keep the tax rate low? And Dan Bagley, that question's going to go to you first.
Okay. Well, the Caribou tax bills are determined in three parts. So we have the municipal budget, we have the school budget, and we have the county budget. We don't control the school budget or the county budget. So the only thing we control is the municipal budget, which consists of two parts. We have our capital budget, which is our infrastructure long-term costs, and we have our expense budget, which is our yearly annual operating costs. During the last 3 years on council, I've been a vocal advocate for fiscal responsibility, which means balancing the needs of the city with the burden to the taxpayer. Let's face it, without significant new businesses and residents coming in, soaring costs are going to cause taxes to go higher and higher, forcing some out of their homes and making people not want to move here. As people start moving out, there are less people to pay taxes, meaning everyone else has to pay a larger share, making things even worse. This is what I've been calling the death spiral during our meetings. I think we really need to focus on needs versus wants across all departments in the city. When we consider budgets every year, we should compare the proposed budget not to what they asked for last year, but what they spent last year, because that's a better indicator of what's really needed versus what's really wanted. This is how you can control tax increases and still provide the services that our citizens have come to expect.
Thank you, Dan. Lori, a very complex issue. What are your thoughts on taxation in the city and whether the mill rate should come down?
I share a lot of Dan's thoughts, and I understand how rising taxes affect everyone, families trying to make ends meet, and retired residents on fixed incomes. My goal is to be careful with every tax dollar while still providing the services people depend on. We can do that by finding efficiencies, sharing resources, pursuing grants and economic growth to expand our tax base. As our community grows stronger, we can begin to ease the tax burden without sacrifice the quality of life that makes Caribou such a great place to live.
Thank you, Lori. Ben?
I think that as Dan said, the first step would be evaluating the amount that was spent in the previous year versus what was asked for when determining the budget. I think building on that, going a step further, I think really breaking down those budgets, what was spent, reviewing POs, looking at bills and materials, everything that was used, and really going through it with a fine-tooth comb, look for material substitutions that can be made. Are we spending more money to support this to support this one project than we need to be because we're using materials that are a little bit more expensive than we might actually need than is practical. I think doing that as well as focusing on the needs and not the wants for the time being. Look at any services we have where funding could be temporarily reduced or halted so that we can then accommodate that money, get it back into the pockets of the taxpayers, make it more appealing to live in Caribou and grow the tax base. And then we can look at bringing those back with more of the tax base returning.
Thank you, Ben Tucker. Dan Bagley? We have gone through that question, so do you want anything
You
else to
really
say?
threw me a curveball on
No,
that.
I just wanted to check because I knew you were close to time on yours. Did you want to add anything?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, maybe just to build a little bit on what Lori said, about controlling every dollar.
Mm-hmm.
I think the council can do better in the budget process. For the last 3 years, we've had our budget season, and we have not had like our typical budget workshops.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that that's enough attention to our budget. I think the council needs to spend more time discussing, deliberating on the budget, and I would like to see the return of some real useful and productive budget workshops. I think that's how you get to controlling, really being aware of every dollar and then controlling every dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Lori, anything else you'd like to say on this topic?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
One other thing, and I've read someone mention this before on social media as well, but just last week I was in Massachusetts for work, and something that I noticed, it's not a huge town, it's much bigger than Caribou, just outside of Worcester in central Mass, is the school buses. I don't see any of the big yellow school buses out there. I see vans that are marked school bus that are being driven around. Those are much cheaper vehicles, much more efficient on gas. I think that looking for alternative solutions like that, it doesn't necessarily have to be that exact example, but any additional ways we can reduce costs while keeping it practical for our current needs would be another important step to reducing that tax burden.
Great. Thank you, Ben Tucker. We're going to look at the housing issue from a different angle in the next question. And the question reads, the consequences of housing insecurity and homelessness are some things that Caribou is experiencing. What solutions should the City Council or City of Caribou consider for assisting those in crisis? And Lori Knight-Fair, we're going to begin with you on this one.
Thank you. Housing insecurity and homelessness are real challenges, and they affect not only individuals and families in crisis, but also the health of our entire community. Caribou should take a proactive, collaborative approach by working with local nonprofits, churches, state programs, and regional partners to expand access to emergency housing and transitional support. At the same time, we can explore long-term solutions such as encouraging the development of affordable housing units, supporting programs that address root causes like job instability and addiction, and ensuring people know how to connect with available resources. By combining compassion with practical solutions, we can make sure every resident feels supported and has a path towards stability.
Great. Thank you, Lori. Ben?
So I agree with Lori that economic opportunity, addiction, mental health issues, those are all contributing factors to homelessness. And I think that those are what the city should be focusing on to try and address it. Homeless overall, I think is a problem that you can't solve with more government. Many cities with much deeper coffers than Caribou have tried, and they've squandered millions of dollars on ineffective policy and have no measurable improvements within their city to show for it. In that capacity, in terms of directly addressing homelessness, I think that the only role that the city should have there is to keep the public safe. Beyond that, continuing its efforts to address housing availability, economic development, I think that's the path forward there.
Great. Thank you, Dan Bagley.
So again, in the past, the city's been hesitant to take on owning and managing properties. And so that's a little bit of an obstacle there. But I mean, if we really want to make a difference, we could consider changing our policy and start exploring what it would take to build and manage new housing units, whether they be permanent low income or transitional or emergency support type housing. I mean, we could do that. But short of that, things that I've already mentioned before, incentivizing builders and landlords, develop private-public partnerships, enforce our dangerous buildings and nuisance property laws, set up a municipal land bank, regulate abandoned and unoccupied buildings, and regulate rental properties. These are all things that would contribute to helping in that area. And it's just kind of a basket of tools and ideas that we really ought to look at closely and see if we can put something together that would help serve that need.
Great, thank you, Dan Bagley. Another issue which has residents really talking is the talk of the construction of a new police station. Specifically in June of 2022, Caribou voters approved the construction of a new police station not to exceed $10 million. What are your thoughts about the continuation of that project, specifically efforts to raise money and the cost to Caribou taxpayers, including the $2.5 million in congressionally directed spending that was authorized by Congress for this particular project? And Ben Tucker, we're going to begin with you on this issue.
Only 90 seconds.
We can go back for another round, so get started.
What efforts? From what I witnessed, that $2.5 million of federal dollars, the council was given at least 2 opportunities that I saw to apply that money to actually reduce the cost of that building to the taxpayers. They voted against it both times. They put it at the end of the cost instead of at the beginning. So there was no real effort to use that to defray the cost to the taxpayers. Additionally, there's always been a question of where that's money coming from, where that money's coming from. We don't have any real visibility. We don't see the efforts of the cost to raise it. We don't see the efforts of the cost to offset it. We have a $10 million price tag that we can only assume will be paid through a loan that the city will secure and then pass on to the taxpayer because there's been no forward movement to remove that cost from it. I think that the effort to take a step back is great now that it's gone over budget and the USDA funding wasn't able to be secured. And I think that we should start looking at a smaller building. And I also think that we should deduct the over $500,000 in sunk costs on architect fees from those federal dollars so that never hits the taxpayers.
We'll come back to that one if you have any additional things to say on that one, but we're going to go to you on this one, Dan Bagley, about the police station.
So the current facility is unacceptable, and I think there's wide agreement on that. And I've always supported the building of a new police station, but not the size and expense of what was proposed. After we were approved for that 2.5 million CDS, I offered a resolution to apply that funding directly to defray the cost that we had to borrow from 10 million to 7.5 million. And the council voted that down, which effectively increased the budget to $12.5 million. I fought for nearly 3 years to convince the council to work towards something more affordable, but I just wasn't successful in doing that. When the bids came in, they were 50 to 60% higher than what the architect's estimates were, and way beyond even our expanded budget of 12.5 million. So, council finally made what I believe was the correct decision to abandon the plan and start over. So that's where we are. The first step will be take a quick look at existing buildings, those that weren't available before when we did a study, and see if there's any opportunity there. If that doesn't yield a feasible option, then we start over with a new design effort and we shoot for a more modest, affordable building. I'm not happy after 3 years to be where we are right now. The responsibility for all this ultimately rests with the council. There's nobody else to blame. There were many opportunities along the way that we could have directed changes, but that didn't happen. I think we can and we must do better.
Great, thank you very much, Dan. Lori, your thoughts on the police station?
I recently had a tour of the police department, and it is not acceptable. They need a better facility. It's the same facility that was there when I was in second grade and had a tour when they had the big renovation. There hasn't been a renovation since. I fully support providing our police department with a safe and functional space, but I don't think we need to spend over $10 million to do it. I'd rather see us use an existing centrally located building and renovate it to meet the department's needs. It's a more practical, cost-effective approach that serves both our officers and our taxpayers well. Thank you.
Ben, Dan, Lori, any additional thoughts on this? I know you wanted to, so we'll let you go for it, Ben.
Yeah, I just, I want to echo the sentiments. I do agree that they need a new building. I do understand that, and I don't want to be seen as a person that's saying absolutely no building, but it does have to be smaller. I do have my own reservations about looking at existing buildings and trying to retrofit them. I know that there's a lot of state requirements that need to be met, and I'm worried that retrofitting process could result in sort of a less bang for your buck situation where the longevity of the building isn't there. So I would like to see a new design pursued. At less square footage, less cost, but I'm not opposed to looking at new buildings as long as we're really taking into consideration how effective that retrofitting will be in the long term.
And Bagley, any other thoughts?
I
on
have
this?
little confidence that we're going to find a building that is going to be able to be refurbished. The constraints are too tight. And we've gone down this road before, but I agreed to do it. I think that's the logical first step. Let's look and let's see if there's something, and maybe there will be, and that'll be great. But I don't have any, I have little confidence that we're going to find anything in existing buildings that's going to be affordable and suitable for our fine police department.
Lori, any other thoughts on this one? All right. So we will picking up on the topic of vacant buildings. And earlier we talked about blighted property on the residential side. Citizens, in this question reads, citizens have concerns about the number of vacant commercial buildings, some of which are falling into disrepair. How can the city council and staff respond to claims that the city is not doing enough to restore value to the properties when the city does not own these properties? Dan Bagley, it's going to go to you first.
Well, so one option is to buy the properties and fix them up. Well, that's tremendously expensive, and I'm not sure it's practical to do that. It's a tough problem because the city, again, that doesn't want to own properties and manage those, yet our hands are kind of tied. If we don't own the building, how can we fix it? So it becomes a liability and expense for the city and thus the taxpayers. That's partly why we've waived foreclosure on so many buildings around town. We just don't want the expense and the liability of them. Another option would be to incentivize owners to keep up their maintenance and find tenants by enacting abandoned and unoccupied property regulations and charging certain fees for that, and subjecting the properties to irregular inspections. A lot of communities are doing that around the country. It's fairly common. And it's also my understanding that owners actually get a tax break on properties they own and that are not fully operational or not fully rented. They get a tax break on that. To me, it seems just wrong. So we need to look into eliminating that tax advantage. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Thank you, Dan Bagley. Lori Knight Fair, your thoughts on vacant commercial buildings and especially those falling into disrepair and what can be done?
Thank you. My comment isn't unlike Dan's. As a resident, I share those concerns. When I see vacant buildings sitting empty and falling into disrepair, it impacts how our whole community feels. Even though the city doesn't own those properties, we can still take action by enforcing maintenance standards, supporting owners who want to make improvements, and helping connect them with potential buyers or developers. By being proactive and working together, we can bring new life and value back to those spaces.
Thank you, Lori. And Tucker?
I think I might disagree with Dan and Lori here a little bit, at least in some regard. I'm very wary about imposing fines on business owners that have vacant buildings. In a lot of cases, if they have a vacant building, it might not be their fault. If it's a commercial building, a lot of these buildings are vacant because it doesn't make financial sense to operate within Caribou. And I don't think that the building owner should be punished for that. That said, I don't think that they should be rewarded for that either. If they are receiving a tax break on those vacant buildings, then I think removing that would be a good step. And I do also think that enforcing maintenance standards could go a long way. Buildings in disrepair can quickly become public health hazards by attracting rodents and other nasty wildlife. But again, I think that in some cases, the claims that the city's not doing enough does have some credibility. If you look at vacant buildings and you see a lack of businesses operating, that's a lack of businesses wanting to operate and people wanting to start a new business here. And I think it's important that the city owns that.
Thank you, Ben Tucker. Dan or Lori or Ben, anything else you want to say on this topic?
In terms of the fees that I mentioned, they're not really fines, and this is to Ben's comment. They're not really fines, but they're fees to basically sign into this registry. And so it's a regulatory thing. And so all of the unoccupied buildings would need to register that fact. But that does two things for you. It, number one, gives you awareness of where your problems are, but it also gives you a tool to help that owner market their property. If they're in a registry that the city owns and manages, anybody can come to the city and ask what available buildings might there be, and we'll have instantaneous knowledge of where those buildings are and can direct prospective leaseholders to those buildings. So I just wanted to clarify, the fees aren't intended to be fines. They're intended to be a fee for a permit to support the regulatory process.
Thank you, Dan. Lori, anything you want to add on this?
No,
And Ben,
thank you.
anything you want to follow up on? All right. So we have 3 final questions for you, and all of them are sort of changing and helping us to understand your priorities and what you think is going well and what the priorities are for the city and the biggest challenges. So we're going to begin with your top 3 goals for the next 10 years for the city of Caribou. Lori, we're going to begin with you on this question. What do you see as the top 3 goals for the next 10 years?
As a city councilor, my top 3 goals for the next 10 years would be, number 1, strengthening Caribou's economy. I want to support revitalization of our downtown, attract new businesses, and build on the positive changes already happening. This means working with business owners and community members, listening to their needs, and making sure decisions are transparent and inclusive. Second, promoting health, wellness, and connection. From better sidewalks and bike paths to winter recreation opportunities and waterfront development, I'd like to see Caribou become a place where residents of all ages can enjoy healthy, active lifestyles year-round. A strong, connected community is also a healthier community. And number 3, supporting housing and families. Housing insecurity is something we are already facing. I want to work on long-term solutions for affordable housing while also ensuring that families feel supported through strong schools, safe neighborhoods, and open communication with city leadership. For me, these goals aren't just about policies, they're about service. I believe in listening, respecting every voice, and making sure that the choices we make today create a vibrant Caribou for the future.
Thank you, Lori Nightfair. Ben Tucker, the biggest or top 3 goals for the next 10 years for Caribou.
I think mine are very similar. My number 1 goal is definitely to foster economic growth within the city. I think that economics are almost the key to everything that we're currently facing. And I think that really digging into and deregulating what we can to allow them to open up is very high priority for me, as well as looking into what tax incentives can be offered for them. Similarly, I also think looking into what can be deregulated to remove barriers for developers so that we can increase the housing supply and encourage people to move here and live here, because new businesses are great, but if housing's unavailable or unaffordable, then they work here, but they move somewhere else and we don't realize that tax revenue. And then also supporting our existing local businesses and empowering them to grow or expand in a healthy, business-friendly environment, seeing what we can do to help them with their operations, either removing some fees that they may have to pay, and as well as offering them tax incentives in some capacity based off of employment or another factor.
Thank you, Ben Tucker. And Dan Bagley, you get the last word on the top 3 goals for the next 10 years.
So if it's okay, I have 6. I can cover them in 90 seconds.
You can do them in 90 seconds, you're
Okay.
good.
Okay, great. So I'll just read them off. Ensure critical investments in the city's future are made while exercising fiscal restraint and balancing the needs of the city with the ever-growing tax burden on our citizens. Promote business and residential development initiatives to increase the city's tax base. Support the many riverfront, airport, and other development projects planned across the city. Reduce blight and nuisance properties by launching a municipal land bank program. Explore more affordable approaches to the new police station to save taxpayers money and provide a facility that is more appropriate to our community size and our needs. And finally, to restore a spirit of cooperation and collaboration among members of City Council. Insist on full transparency in the conduct of all city business and ensure that we follow our charter, local ordinance, and state laws.
And you did it with time to spare.
I have more?
We will move on then to the question, the next to last question, which is asking you each what your biggest challenge or what you see as the biggest challenge facing the city of Caribou, and what is your plan to address it? Biggest challenge and plan to address it. Ben Tucker, we're going to begin with you.
in a word, I think it's inflation. But we don't really have a lot of control over that specifically. But what makes that so hard for us is we have a declining workforce, and as I mentioned earlier, we have a stagnant population. So our workforce isn't exactly growing. And what that means is, Dan called it the death spiral. That's exactly what it leads to. Inflation drives the price of everything up. The cost burden on the city to operate essential services goes up. They have to pay for it somehow or cut services, which we don't want to do. So they have to increase taxes, which get laid on the individual. Unless that workforce is expanding, that's going to keep on happening. Then people move, and then eventually we can't raise it enough to cover services and to accommodate for the amount of people that moved out, and services get cut anyways. I think that everything I had mentioned earlier regarding economic development and trying to really, really hammer on that and put a heavy focus on that is going to be my plan to address that death spiral.
Great, thank you, Ben. Dan Bagley, your thoughts about the biggest challenge facing the city and your plan to address it?
Well, we're right back to where we started at the beginning of tonight's discussion. Economic development, that is the biggest challenge. Economic growth is key to solving almost all of the problems we've discussed tonight. And it must be the central focus of the City Council in the coming years. And so that's where I will be focusing my attention and my efforts in the coming years.
Great. Thank you. Lori Knight Fair.
I couldn't decide on one. I feel like Caribou has, I feel like there are three that stand out to me. High property taxes, a new police station, and the proposed bridge closure. We need to ease the tax burden by growing our tax base and being smart with spending. We also need to find or figure out our new path forward with the police station, whether it's new or it's a building that we renovate. And I also want to push for a better solution to the bridge closure, so residents, first responders, and businesses stay safely connected to this town, because there's a whole population on the east side of that bridge that will be cut off from this community if we allow that closure to happen.
Thank you. All right, we want to end the question and answer period on a positive note, and that is by having you each share with us what you regard as something the City of Caribou is doing well, and what is your plan to ensure that that continues. And Dan Bagley, we're going to begin with you.
There are so many things that the city is doing well. It's very hard to keep limited to one, but I will. I've been most impressed with the outreach and marketing efforts and the success we've had in competing for and obtaining grant funding. It's just amazing. Did you know over the last few years, Caribou's brought in like over $11 million in grant funding to support the various projects? Without this funding, there is absolutely no way we could have done what we're doing now. Our economic development team is just top-notch, simply the best. And our city manager, with her small but effective staff, recently augmented by our friend Eric here, has accomplished more for Caribou than most municipal departments, 3 times their size, could ever accomplish. And I think Penny, our city manager, is a great ambassador for the city of Caribou, and we're so lucky to have her. So that was my pick for the best.
All right. Lori Knight Fair, your positive thoughts.
I'm really proud to see the progress Caribou is making in attracting new businesses, and Amazon's opening is a great example of that success. It's brought new jobs, more activity, a fresh energy to our local economy. It brought 2-day shipping back. Great. To keep that momentum going, we need to continue supporting smart development, improving infrastructure, and making it easier for new businesses to choose Caribou. When we create the right environment, opportunities follow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lori. Ben Tucker, what is going well?
Not too dissimilar to what Dan said. I think that Caribou does an incredible job at community organizing. I think a lot of the community-oriented events, we had Oktoberfest last year and this year, which I think is great. Caribou Cares About Kids, Thursdays on Sweden Street. There's always a lot of events at Spud Speedway. I think that's really important, and I think that's my pick for the best. I think that in a lot of cities, you don't see that kind of community anymore. Everybody's kind of distant and, just passing each other by. And I really love seeing that alive and well. So I think that's great.
Thank you, Ben Tucker. So we've come to the last part of our evening together and our time together, which is your closing remarks and your opportunity to share with the community your last and parting thoughts as they prepare to either mark their absentee ballots in the coming days and weeks or head to the polls on November 4th. So we're going to begin, as I indicated at the beginning of the evening, our closing remarks with Mr. Tucker.
Well, once again, thank you, Jason and Eric, for putting this together and hosting us. I think it's a great thing for people to get an idea of where we stand on some of these pressing issues and our opinions and our ideas on how to address them. I hope that the answers that I've provided helps offer some clarification on solutions I have in mind for the challenges that we're facing. If they don't, and you need follow-up questions, I'm very responsive on my Facebook page, Ben Tucker for Caribou City Council, and hope I earned your vote today, and I'm looking forward to accomplishing some great things for the city.
Thank you, Ben Tucker. Dan Bagley.
Well, again, thank you, Jason, for moderating, and for Eric and Penny and Danielle, who had a hand in setting this up. It's really been a pleasure. And thanks to Ben and Lori as well for stepping up and offering your time and talent to serve in this way. It's a huge time commitment, and sometimes it's a challenging environment. So I admire and respect your willingness to step up and do this for the citizens of Caribou. And to the citizens, it's been my sincere honor to serve you over the last 3 years, and I would very much appreciate your vote to serve another term. We have a lot to do. I love the community, and I'm committed to making sure that Caribou remains a great place to live and work. As I think I've demonstrated over the last 3 years, I tackle each issue impartially. I use my best judgment, and I work with other counselors to achieve the best result possible for the citizens of Caribou. So please come by on November 4th to the polls and stay up to date on campaign announcements and events on my Facebook page, Dan Bagley, City Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. And Lori Knight Fair, the last closing remarks go to you.
Thank you. Thank you for all of you who have helped us to facilitate this opportunity to share about ourselves tonight. Caribou is a community I care deeply about, and I've worked really hard to be able to stay here. I haven't wanted to leave Caribou. And I believe great days are ahead of us. As a counselor, I will bring transparency, respect, and a commitment to listening to every voice. My goal is to build on the progress already happening, strengthen our local economy, promote health and wellness, and ensure families feel supported and connected here. Together, we can make Caribou a place where people want to live, work, and invest for generations to come. I would be honored to serve and to continue giving back to the community that has given me so much. I don't have a Facebook page.
Thank you, Lori Knight
Thank you.
Fair, Benjamin Tucker, and Dan Bagley, not only for your civil discussion and discourse this evening, which I think that politicians at all levels can certainly learn from all of you this evening, but also for your willingness to be involved civically in this capacity as a candidate for City Council. It's greatly appreciated by all of us fellow citizens of Caribou, so thank you very much. And I also want to echo the thanks to the person to my left here, Eric Sanderson, the city's Economic and Community Development Director, for introducing this evening, as well as for keeping time quite well. All of our candidates did a great job. Thank you very much. And also to City Manager Penny Thompson, who did a fantastic job arranging this forum and all of the details behind it, and who was assisted by Danielle Brissette in setting up some of the behind-the-scenes efforts, our city clerk, to make sure that this evening happened and went off without a hitch. So thank you to the three of them. Thank you to the citizens joining us here this evening and to the citizens joining us at home. Your vote is very important, and you are the next step in this process. We ask you to remember to vote in the November 4th elections. It will be held at the Caribou Wellness and Recreation Center from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can also request, and the request is now officially live, to request a absentee ballot from City Clerk Danielle Brissette here at City Hall. Please do either of those two things and make sure your voice is heard by November 4th. That concludes this evening's event. Thank you again to our candidates. Have a great evening, everyone.